Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at something that doesn't always get enough attention when we talk about mental illness, and that's families.
Yeah,
We tend to focus on the individual who is struggling,
right.
but the ripple effects on their family are huge.
Absolutely.
And we've got a whole stack of research here
Yeah.
covering a really wide range of conditions.
Yeah.
We've got schizophrenia and depression, anxiety, eating disorders.
A real spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to really try to understand what these families go through,
Right.
what kind of challenges they face,
Yeah.
how they cope with it,
And what helps?
and what actually makes a difference.
That works.
Yeah, and one thing that kept coming up in the research
Yeah.
was this idea of burden on the family.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because, we talk about the emotional burden, the financial burden,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
even the physical strain sometimes of caring for someone with a mental illness.
Yeah.
But one of the papers I was reading actually questioned whether burden was even the right word to use.
It is kind of loaded, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Like families are just passive victims.
Right.
Just bearing this weight.
Yeah, just bearing this weight.
But it's so much more nuanced than that, isn't it?
It is. It's dynamic.
Yeah.
It's a process.
It's a journey.
Yeah, families are right there on the front lines. They're figuring things out as they go.
Navigating a landscape that's always changing.
Exactly. And it's not just about dealing with a problem. It's about
Right.
living with this constant uncertainty and change.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned the emotional burden.
Yeah.
And I think one statistic that really drives that home is that having a mentally ill relative actually doubles the odds of poor mental health in the caregiver.
Wow.
That's a pretty significant impact.
That's huge.
So we're talking about increased rates of depression, anxiety,
Yeah.
sometimes even physical health issues in caregivers.
It's like a domino effect.
It really is. And then you layer on top of that the financial strain.
Oh,
I mean, think about it. Lost income from having to adjust work schedule.
Yeah.
Potentially therapy costs.
Right.
And then, depending on the specific disorder,
Mhm.
you could be looking at significant lifetime expenses.
Yeah, one study actually put some numbers to that.
Oh, really?
They said for something like conduct disorder in children,
Okay.
you're talking about almost 16,000 pounds extra per year for families.
Wow.
And for autism, a lifetime cost of over 30,000 pounds.
It's mind-boggling.
It is. Those are huge numbers, and it really highlights that this isn't just an emotional burden.
No,
This can be a real financial crisis for families.
absolutely. And it's important to remember that within a family, everyone's experiencing this differently.
Right.
Like, imagine being the sibling.
Yeah.
You're trying to understand what's happening.
Right.
You might be stepping up to help your parents,
Uh-huh.
and you might even be feeling resentful towards the ill family member.
Right. It's a lot to process.
It's complicated.
Yeah. Especially when you're young.
Definitely.
So it makes sense that different family members would develop different coping mechanisms.
Right.
And I can see how that could lead to some friction within the family.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when everyone's just trying to figure things out as they go.
Exactly.
And that actually leads us to the whole fascinating world of coping strategies.
Okay.
The research talks about three main styles:
Okay.
tolerant, engaged, and avoidant.
So tolerant is kind of like accepting the situation,
Right.
but not really pushing for any kind of change.
Right. Just kind of going with the flow.
And engaged is like the opposite.
Yeah, much more proactive.
Actively seeking out information,
Help.
preparing for action.
And avoidant is almost like brushing it under the rug.
Yeah, denying or minimizing the problem.
Right.
Which unfortunately can often make things worse.
Yeah, it seems like it would just build up over time.
Exactly. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Social networks play a huge role in shaping which coping style a family adopts.
That makes sense. So a strong network
Yeah.
with friends, extended family, professional support can really empower a family to be more engaged.
Like they have backup.
Exactly. They feel equipped to seek solutions.
They know they're not alone.
Right, and they can start building resilience.
But on the flip side, if a family is isolated,
Yeah.
that can make them more avoidant.
Yeah, they might withdraw, they might start denying or minimizing the problem.
Right.
And as we said, that can actually make things worse.
Yeah, one of the papers mentioned a study
Okay.
that found that carers who weren't able to take breaks were 3 times more likely to experience mental health issues themselves.
That's really significant.
Yeah, it really highlights how important support and respite are.
Yeah.
It's not selfish to take a break.
No, not at all.
It's essential for everyone involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is where we start to see the potential for positive intervention.
Okay.
If we understand how social networks influence coping,
Right.
we can start to think about how to help families access resources that empower them, that help them build resilience.
So it's not just about families figuring it out on their own.
No,
It's about giving them the tools and the support they need
it's a try.
to thrive.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the interventions themselves,
Okay.
which is where things get really exciting.
All right, let's dive into that.
Yeah.
So we're talking about interventions that actually empower families.
Right. Not just giving them information.
Right. Like, what does that look like in practice?
Well, think about it. Just handing a family a pamphlet about bipolar disorder,
Right.
that's not going to cut it.
No.
They need something more structured,
Oh, yeah.
programs that go beyond just the basic facts.
Right.
Things like practical coping skills,
Yeah.
communication strategies, ways to approach problem solving as a unit.
So it's like a toolkit,
Exactly.
not just a textbook.
You got it.
Right.
It's about giving them the tools to actually be active participants in their loved one's recovery journey.
Okay, so different tools for different situations.
Absolutely. The research shows that different approaches work for different disorders.
Right.
So, for example, with schizophrenia,
Yeah.
interventions that focus on stress management and cognitive behavioral therapy
Okay.
have shown real promise in reducing relapse rates.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If you can manage the stress,
Right.
you're less likely to trigger an episode.
Exactly.
What about for depression?
Oh, for depression, couple therapy can be incredibly effective,
Okay.
especially focusing on improving communication between partners
Uh-huh.
and reducing negative interactions.
It's not even necessarily about the person with depression directly.
Not all work.
It's about the dynamics
It's about the whole system.
around them.
Exactly. And it's fascinating to see how these seemingly small changes can have such a big impact
Yeah.
on both the individuals and the family dynamic as a whole.
It's like a ripple effect.
It really is. And then when you look at bipolar disorder,
Okay.
that theme of communication and support becomes even more important. Family-focused therapy, which aims to manage symptoms, enhance coping skills,
Right.
and strengthen family bonds.
So it's really holistic
It is. It's about bringing the whole family into the equation.
and not just focusing on, the individual's mood swings.
Exactly. You're teaching everyone how to understand and manage the disorder together.
That's great. And what about anxiety disorders?
Oh, for kids and teens, cognitive behavioral therapy that involves family members has been proven really effective.
So again, instead of isolating the child who's anxious,
Right.
you're giving the whole family tools
You're creating a more supportive and informed environment.
to understand and manage the anxiety.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. And then there's eating disorders.
Oh, yeah. Family-based therapy, especially for anorexia nervosa, is considered crucial.
It's interesting how different the approaches are,
Yeah,
but there's this common thread
there is.
of communication, understanding, and support.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's about equipping families with the knowledge and tools they need to navigate these challenges.
Right. And that actually brings us to another really crucial element, the role of family organizations.
Yeah, these are amazing.
One of the papers was highlighting how these organizations are really empowering families
Mm-hmm.
and advocating for better mental health care.
Absolutely.
It's inspiring to see families taking action
Yeah.
and pushing for change.
It's not just about individual families coping, it's about collective action.
Right.
And what's remarkable is that these organizations exist globally.
Really?
Oh, yeah. From India to Kenya, Russia to South America.
Wow.
It really underscores the universal need for family support and advocacy.
That's incredible. One organization that really stood out to me
Yeah.
was the World Fellowship for Schizophrenia and Allied Disorders.
WFSAD.
Yeah, they're doing some incredible work providing support and education to families all over the world.
Exactly. And there are countless others, big and small,
Yeah.
connecting families, sharing information, fighting for better resources and policies.
And I bet being part of these groups helps families feel less isolated too.
Oh, absolutely. That shared experience is invaluable.
That feeling of you get it because you've been there.
Exactly. And the research really backs that up.
Yeah.
The benefits of support groups are consistently shown in the research.
Right.
Families report stronger relationships, increased knowledge about mental illness,
Mhm.
and crucially, a sense of empowerment.
Yeah.
They realize they're not alone,
Right.
and they gain the tools to advocate for themselves and their loved ones.
It's like turning pain into action,
It is.
finding strength in numbers.
Absolutely. But of course, these organizations face their own set of challenges.
Oh, I'm sure. What kind of things?
Well, stigma can be a huge barrier,
Yeah.
especially in certain cultures.
Right.
And then limited resources, particularly in low-income countries,
Of course.
make it even more difficult to provide adequate support.
Yeah, but even with those hurdles, the work they do is so valuable.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a reminder that hope and resilience exist even in the face of adversity.
It's a powerful reminder that families aren't passive bystanders.
No.
They're active participants in the mental health journey,
Yeah.
showing incredible strength and resilience.
And supporting them through interventions, resources, and a sense of community
Right.
can lead to better outcomes for everyone.
Exactly. It's not just about treating the individual, it's about supporting the whole ecosystem around them.
Right. Recognizing families as integral partners in the process,
You hit the nail on the head.
not just passive recipients of care.
You know, there's this line from one of our sources that really struck me.
Oh, yeah.
It is obvious that family organizations worldwide play a substantial role in mental health care, but specific outcomes achieved for family carers and their mentally ill relatives are not widely appreciated or known about.
Wow. That's powerful.
It
It
is.
means we're just scratching the surface
Yeah,
of understanding the impact families can have
absolutely.
on mental health care.
We need more research, more awareness,
Yeah.
and a more collaborative approach.
That values families as true partners in the process.
Couldn't agree more.
It's about moving away from that old paternalistic model
Right.
where experts dictate treatment
Yeah,
and towards something much more collaborative,
absolutely.
where families are empowered to participate as informed members of the treatment team.
Exactly. And it goes beyond clinical settings.
Right.
It's about fostering a culture of empathy and understanding in our communities.
It really is. And, as we've been unpacking these research papers,
Yeah.
it's become clear that while structured interventions and professional help are essential,
Of course.
the most profound support often comes from other families
Right.
who've walked this path before.
You've been there.
There's something so powerful about that shared understanding.
It's invaluable.
Yeah, it really makes you think, how can we as a society do a better job of supporting families who are
Right.
dealing with mental illness?
That's such a great point because it's not just about the big picture stuff.
Right.
You know, the organizations, the policies,
Yeah,
we can all play a part.
in our everyday lives.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was this one story that really stuck with me
Oh,
in
yeah.
one of the articles
Okay.
about this family who was struggling with their son's schizophrenia diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And their neighbors started dropping off meals once a week just to
Oh,
help out.
that's so nice.
And the family said it made a world of difference.
Just to know that people cared.
Yeah. It wasn't about the food itself.
Right.
It was about that sense of community.
Exactly. And it goes beyond practical help, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like how we talk about mental illness,
right.
challenging stigma, and misconceptions.
Whenever we encounter them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to create a culture of compassion and understanding.
Yeah, where families feel safe
Mm-hmm.
to open up about their struggles.
Without being judged.
Yeah. And I think that's something we've really seen throughout this deep dive.
Definitely.
It's not just about treating the individual.
Right.
It's about supporting that whole ecosystem
A whole network.
around them.
Yeah, friends, family, neighbors, colleagues.
Everyone has a role to play.
Absolutely. And it kind of makes you think,
Yeah.
if we know that the most powerful support often comes from other families
Yeah.
who have been there,
Right.
how can we build that into our communities more intentionally?
That's a great question. And I think it's a great question to leave our listeners with.
Yeah,
It's not just about providing services.
right.
It's about fostering that sense of shared understanding and empathy.
Absolutely.
So how can communities better support families dealing with mental illness?
Right, not just in moments of crisis.
Yeah, but over the long haul.
What would that look like in your community?
Yeah, take some time to think about that.
And as always, we encourage you to explore the source material further.
Yeah, we'll link to everything in the show notes.
There's so much more to uncover.
And remember, amidst all the challenges, there's always hope, resilience,
Mm-hmm.
and the potential for families to emerge from these experiences even stronger.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning,
Yeah.
and keep the conversation